Hello, everyone, to this news episode of Linking the Blocks, the ChainsAtlas podcast. I'm Jan, one of the founders of ChainsAtlas, a place where we do very simple things like completely changing the way how we will interact with blockchain. Thanks a lot for you all joining us today. It's a pretty amazing guest today. And I hope you all give him a warm welcome to our community here. Hsu Li, who is one of the core members of OffChain, an international blockchain crypto-focused community where people run regional chapters and meet in person. I think there's about 70 chapters at this point. Maybe you can introduce yourself best, and I'll leave it to you. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Loud and clear. By the way, my headset I lost my headset, to be honest, at another podcast where I was guest. So my sound quality might not be the same as usual. I hope it works out well enough, though.
No, it's very clear on my side.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
okay.
If you give a little intro of yourself, and then we can get going.
Sure. Sounds great. Well, thank you, Jan. Thank you to the ChainsAtlas team for inviting me on this podcast this afternoon. My name is HC, which stands for Hsu-Chuan. I'm Taiwanese American, and I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. You can call me a serial entrepreneur. I started off, I'll go back 20 years ago, where I started my career in China. I've worked in various industries, such as construction. I've worked as a restaurant owner. I've worked in Web2 companies, such as Groupon, Rakuten, and a scooter/bicycle sharing startup when the scooters were all the rage. And I entered the Web3 sphere.
They were laying around on those. I was almost running over one on in the streets in Frankfurt. One of
the Maybe it was ours.
It might have been. Well, it might have been. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we had the no worries. We had the yellow scooters. So within our team. Okay. So it wasn't ours. But yeah, once the pandemic hit, basically the scooter operations all stopped, and everyone at the company at the time got laid off. So I had to find something to do. What was my next step? And I dove into Web3. So I first got exposed to Web3 in 2017, and I invested in a few ICO projects in 2018. At the time, it was just friends introducing me, and I didn't spend too much time studying it until I lost my job after the pandemic. So that was when I really dug into it. I read various books, the Bitcoin Standard, that guy, Antonopoulos. So that's how I kind of learned more about Bitcoin, which led to learning more about Ethereum. And then we had DeFi summer 2020. And yeah, just fell down the rabbit hole. Then I joined the now defunct Celsius network. And after a couple of years at Celsius, I joined Yield App, another now defunct asset management company. So yeah, the journey has been a little rocky, but I'm still here. Now I'm a big part of OffChain. I love OffChain. I've been part of the community since 2021 when I was in Beijing, and I started organizing meetups there. And last year I moved back to my hometown in Taiwan, and I'm helping out with the community here, as well as still helping out with the Beijing chapter and also Hong Kong chapters and various other, mostly APAC chapters, to basically bring great communities together so that we can maximize the value for our own community.
Sounds amazing. I think the Web3 story of most people isn't simple or smooth. I wouldn't have met that person. If you're out there, please identify yourself. I'd really love to talk to you. But I think it's part of the industry or the field that there are ups and downs. I mean, who didn't get wrecked in the bear market is doing something very, very right or wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, you can get wrecked in a bull market. I did.
You can easily get wrecked in the bull market. Maybe even easier than in the bear market, to be honest. When everything's down, I mean, whatever. On the way between bull and bear, that's where most people get wrecked, I guess. Either on the shorts or the longs. It depends.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck in this area right now, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It reminds me a little bit of the dent we had in 2020, but it might as well just go down all the way. I have no idea what's happening next. I mean, let's see what happens after the 70 or the infamous 69 mark, and let's go from there.
Yeah, that's 60. Man, I hope it doesn't go down to 69. I know some of us are calling.
I also hope.
Yeah,
but probably hope against hope, to be frank. Let's not be pessimistic. Obviously, it's got all up from here to the moon. That's what's going to happen. No financial advice, guys.
Of course.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting times. Talk a little bit more about off-chain, maybe. I heard about it, to be very honest, the first time through you or through mutual friends. Probably Mark would be a good bet. And
yes.
Maybe you can explain a little bit more how, as I understand, you started building the local chapter in Beijing at the time. That must have been interesting. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about what it meant to build that community and to how you got to the basically global operations of it, and how off-chain is structured. That I think it's quite interesting, as it's probably closer to a DAO than most DAOs from what I've seen and heard. But maybe you can talk a little bit about it. It's a very interesting organization from what I've seen.
Yeah, sure. So at the time, back in 2021, when I first learned about off-chain, it was called Crypto Drinks. And it was just a few guys originally all the way back to 2017, expats in Shanghai who were interested in crypto and were doing some investing, or at the time, getting together like once a week or once every 2 weeks, getting a few drinks. That's why it was called Crypto Drinks, at a local bar in Shanghai, and then discussing, about crypto. And then as guys moved out of Shanghai to various, I think I was at the time, other big cities in China, they started kind of replicating the same thing in those cities. There's like a weekly, very casual meetup, trying to meet other people working in crypto in some of those cities. For example, actually somebody before me organized one event in Beijing, and I inherited that group, and I just ran with it. But we also were having events in, say, Hangzhou, in Suzhou, Chengdu, down in Guangzhou and Shenzhen. And there was a Hong Kong chapter that started up as well. So yeah, it was kind of a very organic, kind of decentralized growth, because we are a nonprofit organization. It's mainly people join because they like getting together with other Web3 people, and then just chatting about the latest happenings. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much the genesis for me. Like my first event, I was expecting maybe 3 people to come. This was in July 2021 in Beijing, but 10 people came. So I was like, hey, this is great. There's a lot of Web3 people in Beijing. But then the second event, a couple of weeks after that, only 3 people came, and that's including me. So it's like me and 2 other guys. But those 2 guys are now, they're some of my best friends in crypto. And we've stayed good friends ever since that meeting 4 years ago. And it's all part of the journey.
It's amazing to see how it grew ever since. I was at one or two off-chain events, and there were definitely more than 3 people at the time. So
yeah,
that's success, I guess. Yeah, as I said, I think it's around about 70 chapters around the world. So it's
I think at our height, it's about, but it depends on the organizer for those cities chapters.
Yeah, obviously.
Kind of a running joke / reality within OffChain is that people organize OffChain and they build a really great, awesome local community, and they meet other people who work in the space. And they eventually find like a really solid gig or job or something. And then they get too busy and they stop organizing.
Too busy, yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that means you did a good job. I mean, the network and the community fulfilled its purpose in that way. And I guess you're also subject to the bear and bull. Like most of crypto is, so I can imagine that there's definitely ups and downs in the size of it. Generally speaking, and we are going through that process right now. I'm a B2B guy, right? I've been running B2B business. I've been doing consulting for big corporates. I've never been in a situation where I needed to build a big retail community for a project. It's not been part of really anything I've done in the past. So this is also really new to me, and we're going through that right now. Thankfully, I have an amazing team that helps a lot with it. Without them, I'd be really lost and stuck. I mean, we tried things. We tried when it was basically just a founding team. So 2 tech guys, myself with a more corporate background, and so we tried buying audience, all the stuff you probably shouldn't do. And it ended up horribly. There was no engagement. People would leave. And the engagement that was there was, well, you'd rather not have it, is all I say. But, yeah, maybe you can give a little bit of an insight. And I know you've done a lot as well from business development over several other things now into the community building, community management. I think for Celsius, you were a community manager, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yes, I was. Marketing and also some BD.
That's often coming together as well. So we have it separate in our own operations. Because we also still have the B2B elements, so we try to find a balance a little bit. But yeah, in Web3, it's definitely very common to have these 2 positions rolled into one. But yeah, maybe you can give us a little bit of insights. I'm really going through that experience the first time in my life in that sense. It's quite exhilarating. It's quite amazing seeing the community grow, seeing people chat, seeing people appreciate what you do. It's a really, really positive experience for me so far. I know there can be other aspects of it as well. I've been warned. But yeah, maybe you can elaborate a little bit what it takes to build a good community. Also for a lot of the founders that go through similar problems or similar challenges, real problems or challenges, that I did. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit what it means to build not only a big, but a solid, engaged community.
Sure. So from my experience, before I joined Web3, I was an event organizer in Beijing for my own brand. It was on the food side because I used to be a restaurateur. So me and my brother, who's a chef, we were partners in that business. And our brand was called Fat Face. So we would regularly host our own events. So we were a catering operation to start. So we not only gained clients, like catering clients, corporate clients, but how we got those clients were through community kind of like, buffet, social events that we organized ourselves. So basically my brother would make like a huge buffet menu, and then I would help send like I would like, organize an event, find a venue to host us, and then send out the information to, our social circles, social network, and then people would sign up. And that was a way for us, through our own branded events, to get more like corporate or private catering clients. So from that experience, now coming to Web3 and off-chain, I kind of take those learnings to there. Because for me, relationships are built by people meeting in person. Though sometimes, like, especially now in Web3, you meet many people that are introduced to you by, say, other friends online. Like, it's an online introduction, and then you schedule a call with that person to start building a face-to-face type of relationship. And then if you're lucky to be in the same place at the same time, especially for us, we go to a lot of different conferences around the world, so there's many opportunities for people to meet up in person. But I still believe, because I'm an old timer, like I was born in the late 70s, right? So I kind of see that I grew up in a much different environment than all the youngins growing up these days. So I still put a lot of credence into people meeting face-to-face, people meeting face-to-face in person. And that's how you build strong relationships, and that's what leads to strong communities. Because I've been a part of many Web3 communities, NFT communities, for example, but those relationships aren't as strong. And you don't really you feel like you meet people through their kind of alter egos or alter personas, like through their PFPs, for example, through like a JPEG. But you don't really actually get to meet the real people behind that. So that's why for me, kind of building these like with you, with Mark, or many people in our group, those relationships are cemented by meeting in person, and then whether it's like talking shit or having fun or working together. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for reference, we both are part of a small community. It's a bit exclusive, and getting in, even though it's a Telegram group and there's a website, you have to have met one of the members in person, and also you have to have lost quite a bit of money in crypto. That's another condition.
Right. You have to have been wrecked.
for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually a really interesting one, because and a little bit antithesis. God, not able to speak today, to what you mostly see in crypto, where people try to build huge communities. I just talked to a founder, and I kind of like what they did on the tech side, and then I checked out their community, and it was like almost 100K big on X, but it had maybe 2-3 likes per post, and barely any interaction, barely any comments. So, I mean, we all know what probably happened, but it's not looking good. And this one is more very exclusive in who is let in. If you're not active, you get kicked out very strictly. Using a bot, no ifs or buts. And yeah, it's very active. It's probably way more active than a community like the other one, because people want to be there. Only those that are actually engaged stick around, and you're basically vetted in person. Obviously, that's not always working for a blockchain protocol like ours. So if it's not possible to build an in-person community, maybe you have some ideas about do's and don'ts in terms of creating a community around, let's say, a protocol or a meme coin or whatever you guys are building out there. If you don't have the luxury of really picking and choosing in that extreme, and you probably wouldn't be able to meet everyone in person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very difficult question, and definitely challenging for everyone who's trying to build a community through their Web3 project, right? So that's kind of $1 million question. I can just speak from our experience working with OffChain, and now I'm actually going through this process with my other project called Card3, where we provide kind of offline event NFC solutions to help people engage better with each other and network better. It's like a cool little tool, you know those NFC cards where what you can set up, you can print it your own like NFT on it, as your name, and when you want to meet someone new, they just have to tap your card with their phone, and then they can get to your contact information. So with OffChain, our proposition is pretty clear. Our online groups are mainly there to send information. So it's more of a one-way information, but it's valuable information. Usually it's, hey, the next OffChain event is going to be on this date at this location, and please sign up. And hey, OffChain, let's say Taipei chapter is a community partner of, say, Taipei Blockchain Week, and we can get everyone in the community a certain discount if you sign up through our link here. So it's more kind of driving offline participation to physical events. So that's pretty clear. But now for OffChain, we realize that we don't really have like much online engagement. So I've started our own podcast on Tuesday nights with a buddy from Beijing. He's running Beijing OffChain chapter at the moment. So the two of us, we're just kind of piecing it together. Every week, every Tuesday, we come up with a topic of the day, and then we kind of discuss it for 40 minutes to an hour, just testing things out to try to engage with the community more online. And the same with Card3. Like Card3, we've been around for almost 2 years. Almost everybody who is one of our users, we've met in person, or one of the guys on the team has met in person at Web3 events all around the world, conferences, side events, whatnot, and with very strong Web3 projects. For example, BAYC, Pudgy Penguins, Animoca, Sandbox, just to name a few. And we're trying to build this online engagement, which is difficult because I don't know why, but people don't like to chat in our groups. We started a group with now there's a few hundred people inside, and we actually had like a very, it's like a pretty good airdrop. It was with the story blockchain. And it was a pretty good airdrop, and then we were sending information in the groups to get people to check, log into their Card3 accounts to check if they got the airdrop. But we didn't get that great a reply engagement. It's like, hey, it's free money. Like all you have to do is open our app, and then log in and check, and you get $100. I guess I don't know. We have to keep trying, I guess.
At this point.
I don't think so. Like you guys can check it out.
Yeah, then everyone, by all means. Sounds like a good opportunity right there.
Yeah, anyone who's ever had a Card3 device or an account is eligible. So, it's like logging into an airdrop with your wallet to see if you're eligible for the airdrop. So it takes like 5 seconds.
If you want us to communicate some links afterwards for people to check more information out, just let us know. I'm sure someday or Luke are happy to post it in our community as well. We've seen similar challenges, as I said earlier. Like we've been experimenting with a lot lately. We've seen quite good engagement. Also, big thank you to our team, Sumtai, Luke, particular on the community side. They've done an amazing job. But I think the man also never sleeps. He's like online 24/7, talking to everyone. I don't know how he does it, but it's really impressive. And it takes a dedicated team. That's really what we found. Somebody with experience in it that knows the right ways to engage with the community, and that also gets people on board that are willing to talk. And on the other hand, one person can't do it alone, because as a blockchain project, you're pretty much global by definition. I mean, even our team is pretty much.
Yeah, you're global, you're 24/7, yeah.
Exactly. So you need basically a moderator team, or a team of moderators that are strategically placed around the globe in time zones, so that you can cover 24/7. And there's a lot of, for me personally, it's been a lot of learnings over the last few months, and I'm sure you went through something similar. And I mean, it's the old adage from Web2. The best product doesn't always win. It's how you market it, how you go to market, how is the product market fit, and how you just place it on the market, and timing is extremely crucial. And all that's true for Web3. Yeah. On top of this, you have this other aspect where, like, if you don't have the right community that's engaged, interested in your token, interested in what you're doing, if you on the utility side, if you a utility-based protocol and not a meme coin, but is engaged, if that's not there, it's really, really hard nowadays with all these coins coming out. I mean, let's face it, there are thousands over thousands out there. No? It's very hard to go to market. So I think we learned there is no one size fits all, and there is no golden shot to it. And even somebody with your background can struggle at times to creating engagement. Do you have any plans for the future to that end? Maybe to try a few things, maybe give some advice in terms of things that failed, that worked well for you in the past?
So right now, because we've been around for a while, I'm talking about off-chain, that now we kind of get to pick and choose the different, because we get approached by a lot of projects, basically asking us to collaborate with them or partner with them to drive our community, because they see the value in our communities, right? So to drive our community to their side events. So we're kind of known for that. And for example, recently at the Consensus Hong Kong conference, we were community partners for 6 different events, including the main event and 5 side events. And I would say I went to, I think, 5 out of the 6. I think for the most part, they were very well attended and pretty successful. So now we kind of get the luxury of getting to pick and choose the events or the brands or the projects that we kind of deem to be fairly legit. Like, usually for me, I have to have a conversation face to face, at least online or offline, with one of the founders, just so I can get a gauge of what they're doing. Usually I do some research on them as well. So yeah, but some of the common mistakes I've seen projects make, especially projects that have already launched something online, is that they ask the user to pay money, like, pay, whether it's in crypto or in fiat. I mean, usually it's not fiat, it's in crypto. Like, pay money right away in order to engage with the project. And I don't think that's the best way. I think for us, whether it's off-chain, because we're a community that's constantly striving to give to our members, that's how we're able to kind of stay afloat for so long. I mean, that and the fact that we're also decentralized and nonprofits, we kind of only attract the people who are really passionate about Web3, about organizing events within Web3. These are the guys that stick around for long term. But yeah, I mean, the same with Car3. Car3, the physical product itself, you don't have to even think about the Web3 part of it. Once you get one of these devices, you can set it up and then you can start using it in like 30 seconds. And it's like a complement to your offline networking or BD. And we're building on top of that different Web3 features or kind of like different types of engagement in event features. So just adding value on top of the base product. And that's how we're kind of going about it. Plus we're now partners with various different chains and projects that we're able to give out airdrops. In addition to like the native airdrops and farming that those chains are doing themselves. So like Story Chain, they see the value of our community and they're willing to give us like, some tokens for us to distribute and do kind of like a event for our community.
Sounds like we have to talk about potential partnership as well then. I wasn't
aware
of that. But let's, maybe not in this podcast, but let's definitely have a chat about that as well.
For me, it's all kind of built around offline engagement.
Yeah.
And building a community through offline engagement.
That's why I love our little community around Mark and you and a bunch of others, because it's all about off-chain engagement and really meeting people in person. And we do regularly around the region. And
I think for us getting wrecked together and then getting drunk together, that builds like very strong ties.
It does. Yeah. It's
you must have both of them. You can't just get wrecked together. No. You can't just drink together. Then it's just you're just like drinking buddies. Then you're just there for the fun, right? You have to be there for the pain and for the fun.
And the fun, exactly. Yeah. There has to be a bit of both. There has to be a balance in the force, so to speak.
Exactly.
And I have to say, like, this is something I really that really impresses me about you in particular as well. That you are really engageable, and that you it's easy to have a beer with you, have a talk with you, and nonetheless that I know that you're extremely busy, and with all the things you're doing. So, is there anything else in store that you're planning? Anything that you'd like to share with this community or in general?
Just kind of this year, just continue to do what we have been doing. So on the off-chain side, I'm more focused on good partnerships where I can help drive our communities, and then putting less focus necessarily on our local organizers organizing their own events. Those will still be happening, but I kind of see more value now, or just as much value, of driving our communities to engage with other communities so that different projects and their separate communities can get together offline and meet each other. Because we're so small anyway, right? I was just speaking to a friend who's based in New York, and she was telling me, this was yesterday, and she was telling me that the New York community is pretty small. Like, after you've been around for a year or two, you pretty much know everyone. I was like, hey, if New York is small, then every other city is smaller. Right? Yes. Absolutely. So it's very important, I feel, exactly. Yeah, it's very important for us to stick together and not get so caught up in our own projects, our own tribes, because we're so tiny. And if we want to, because people keep talking about, hey, how do we bring the next 100 million to 1 billion users into Web3? Not by kind of cozied up in our own little groups, right? But by opening our arms and welcoming everyone who's interested or has like some curiosity to learn about us, then we should welcome them.
Yeah, I find that always super fascinating. The tribalism that you still find in crypto or in blockchain might be a bit controversial right there, but I don't think it is helping anyone. Like, you want to push your project you invested in, you have monetary incentive. I get all that. But if the whole industry isn't succeeding, it's not worth anything. Right? And how can it succeed if you have, I think last time I checked it was like 300 different layer 1s, layer 2s with smart contract capabilities. So, like, which ecosystem to choose, I think that a lot of them have really nice features that are complementary. And I mean, that's one of the philosophies of ChainsAtlas as well, because yes, we're building a layer one that enables you to run smart AI agents on chain, right? But it also, and that's what we've been doing for 2 years, our tech enables you to build smart contracts really regardless of the ecosystem. You build it once, you can deploy it on all supported chains, and you can then distribute it over them. And I still find it extremely interesting to see how still that tribalism plays out. And people think, yeah, we're going to win, we're going to be the one coming out on top. But I don't think it's happening. I mean, if it was, there's no tendency to that. It's actually more, in my humble opinion, and again, it's just my opinion, and it's what I'm observing. I feel it's more fractioning. It's more like spreading out. There's more.
Yeah.
There's more coming to the ecosystem and not going away, as opposed to like you would see in traditional tech, where in the end one big guy usually comes out on top.
Right.
That's something I find really interesting. And I mean, as you said, your approach to having a decentralized community, but yet really locally seeing that people come together in person, yet acting in one big community, kind of. I think that's a nice example how it could be if things were a little bit different. Okay, that's a little tangent.
No, you actually, as I was listening to you, I kind of had an insight based on my experience that I want to share. Because I joined the, many people remember Groupon, right? So the American company, Web2 internet company that kind of rose to fame very quickly. Basically,
yeah, so I did a little research on your LinkedIn. I saw it there and it popped up. Yeah. I think it was in China, right?
Yeah. So this was after Groupon blew up in the States, and then it blew up in Europe. And then the team that helped it blow up in Europe came to China to basically build the market within 1 year in preparation for Groupon's IPO, IPO, right, in the States.
IPO, yeah.
So I kind of saw the disruption that this internet company made in the traditional kind of, especially the service industry within China. Because literally within months, we grew, so Groupon China, we grew from like a couple cities. We had like our big offices in Beijing and Shanghai. And within 3 months, we expanded the sales team to 120 cities in China. And we launched those cities one by one very quickly and had like big groups of salespeople to basically sign or try to sign all the restaurants and service, physical shops. And I saw the disruption that this product did to restaurants. Basically, if you're not a, sound operated restaurant, by joining like a Groupon, which you kind of had to because everyone else were, otherwise you get no business. You're kind of forced to. But it would expose all of your vulnerabilities so that you would go out of business quicker. So you had this gigantic internet company coming in, which spurred like literally thousands of other group buying companies in China. So everyone was trying to get a piece of this market. And if you're a small restaurant or, even a large restaurant, you had no choice but to do it. And if you do it, it's kind of, you do it and you're not managing your operations well, you go out of business. And I saw so many restaurants go out of business during this time. And I kind of see some similarities with that and Web3, especially the recent cycle of meme coins and shit coins and all these like thousands of coins, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Where projects they might have good ideas, but because they have to, kind of like the restaurants, right? They had to, sign some kind of group buying in order to continue competing in the space. These little projects, they have to tokenize. But the thing is, once you tokenize, your fate isn't in your own hands anymore. Because once you tokenize, your fate is kind of in the hands of whales, in the hands of snipers, right? That can pump and dump. I mean, usually that's the case. Pump and dump your project to zero. And then you're like, shit. And then your community is disappointing you. Hey, why did you rug us? Like, hey, we didn't rug you like the snipers did, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to kind of like build something, not tokenize it, but believe that your project has product market fit or has enough traction to last you, like, I don't know, in Web3, maybe 6 months, a year. In a lot of ways, that's like a restaurant because, I don't know if you heard, most restaurants, like 90% of restaurants go out of business within the first year. I think that's the same case with Web3, but yeah.
I read that.
Yeah. But with Web3, I think it's 90% of businesses or projects go out of business within 3 months. But it's sort of like there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting analogy, actually. I think what I've seen, what I've observed, is that a lot of projects, yeah, absolutely right, there is a pressure to tokenize because even if your product has an amazing product market fit, if there's enough clients, it's a long-term play. And if everybody else around you tokenizes and has short-term money to play with, it's a very risky game as well, because they might just observe what you're doing, realize there's traction, and build the same with much more capital. Thankfully, most crypto projects don't really do that. They're happy with having raised. That's another pet peeve with the industry, I have to be honest. But that's also in Web2, to be very honest. A lot of startups I've seen when I ran my own Web2 startup, their whole purpose in life seemed to be finding the next VC, which cannot be a good founder's perspective on things. It's my personal belief. Because in the end, you need to eventually have a viable business. And I think the motivation should be to solve a problem and not find the next rich guy to give you money, right?
Right.
But yeah, I see, and I think, now that you mentioned this, I think a lot has to do, is there actual utility eventually in your project? I think from what I've seen, most projects that do well longer term, either have a really strong narrative, like a really strong meme coin, something like Dogecoin or whatever. One of the OGs in the space of meme coins anyways, and I mean, it's its own blockchain, so it's just a bit different than meme coins nowadays. But most of the projects now that I see making it long term, they do have actual utility of the token. And I'm not talking, you can pay with my token. Yeah, sure, cool. But something that is necessary for the ecosystem to actually work. Because then you have not only, honestly, if you don't have that, you are under the same tides and waves of a meme coin, because all the market value that you create is in a strong belief in what you're doing. And it's not, okay, I need to use this for something particular. It's not an investment. It's not something I do just for the monetary gain, but it's something that has to be used. But maybe it's just the idealist in me that wants to believe that. I don't have actual market numbers for it to back it up, but it's my perception of things. But it might well just be my personal naivete. I don't know.
And we've yet to see like a successful kind of business model that really combines like the power of Web 2 with Web 3. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a couple ideas, but I haven't seen anything that's like really kind of a global kind of concept yet.
Surprisingly, founders that think they have something like that. Let's keep aside if they do or not. But I find it extremely hard for them to make it on either side. In Web 2, they're seen as Web 3, and nobody wants to touch them. And in Web3,
Right.
it's, I mean, product market fit, when Lambo, right? when do you have the coin?
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
And your coin usually spells your death.
It might. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in a situation where we need it because it's a native coin of a blockchain. Without it, the blockchain wouldn't exist. Yeah, we have been waiting for a long time to make sure there's actually utility for it, because we could have released a coin 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I mean, there was an existing product that made money.
Right.
But exactly what you said, and the example of the coupon kind of dynamics, market dynamics, is actually a really good analogy. I never thought about it that way. But yeah, those are the challenges we're facing. Looking at the time, we are already a little above the 45-minute mark. Surprisingly,
wow. That was quick.
That
was quick, man.
Yeah.
We can go for longer.
Definitely. If you have a little time to hang around a little bit here, I'd like to open up the community for questions.
Sure.
If that's okay for you, cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Then to my team, I'm working on a little bit of a limited setup. So if you could convey those questions to me through a channel, would be really, really helpful. I have one here from Anchor, I would guess is the pronunciation of your name. Sorry if I butcher it. What challenges did you face when transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3? That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, actually a good amount of challenges because, pretty much lost my job suddenly through the pandemic. So I had to quickly scramble to see what else is out there because I was in China at the time and we were under kind of lockdown as well. So couldn't really go out or travel or take airplanes or trains. So basically stuck at home. And good thing had stable internet. So at the time I had some Bitcoin. So I was like, hey, why don't I learn more about what Bitcoin is? And one thing led to another. I took a couple of online courses about blockchain to learn more about it. So I learned about DeFi. And then that's how I found Alex Mashinsky and Celsius. And then I bought some Celsius tokens and then kind of, participated in their community. I was like pretty vocal. I had many questions about the product. And then they invited me to become an ambassador. So I became an ambassador. And in late 2020, they were hiring like mad. And they asked me if I wanted to come on as a full-time community manager. So that's kind of how I transitioned into it. I think like if you're really interested in something, then you would obviously spend time and energy on it. And that's kind of how I got my first job. But obviously the pay was a lot different because I was an executive in the Web 2 sphere. But I felt like transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, I kind of had to start at the beginning, kind of as a lowly community manager. But hey, community managers are very important. Sometimes like they're probably the most vital people of a Web3 project because they're the guys or girls that interact with the community all the time.
Cool. I hope that answers your question, Anka. I have another one from Prof. I want to ask what community tooling you guys have found best. I mean, I know you
community tool
person. Yeah, I guess what tools you use to engage the community, to maybe gauge metrics. Prof, if I interpret your question wrong, please just put it in a chat and I'll see that I corrected.
What tool that we used back in Celsius was called Hootsuite. Hoot, like Hoot, Suite, Suite. I believe that's what it's called. So it's like a community management platform where you can link it to your Telegram, to your Instagram, to your Facebook, I'm not sure if there's WhatsApp, but all of the major social media, so that your community managers can each have a login and can respond to messages within that platform on multiple platforms. So I thought that was a pretty useful tool that we used internally. So because we had, I think, around a dozen or more community managers all over the globe, different time zones and different shifts. So yeah, it's easy for our manager to kind of like group us into different time zones based on where we are. And then once we log on, we can have access to all the different platforms so that we don't have to jump from one to another. Yeah, this is if you have like multiple social media platforms that you need to manage.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the question, Prof. There is another one from Hein. Hey, Hein. He's one of our team members, actually. With AI rapidly evolving, do you see AI-driven communities replacing human-led Web3 communities? That's an interesting one. Feel free to go all out on this one.
I don't see them replacing human communities because I'm in the kind of real human community space. So I hope they don't replace us. Maybe as kind of like a bonus, we can invite like
down the robot kind of rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah, like I said, we have to get wrecked together and we have to get drunk together, and robots cannot drink. They might get wrecked. I mean, they might be smarter than us, and yeah, I guess so. You can kind of program them so they have like a little reservoir inside, so that they can, but they can't get. They can pretend to be drunk. They can pretend to puke as well.
Probably. Yeah, that'd be a neat feature.
But it wouldn't be the same puke, so we would know whether they're a robot or not.
It would be some silicon, probably. I don't know. Yeah.
No, but a more serious note, like right now, if you're online enough, like me, I'm on X all the time, and you can easily kind of spot the replies or the posts that were written by AI. Especially if you also use AI to do this kind of stuff, you write, help you supplement your writing and things like that. It just doesn't feel human enough yet, but I know that's going to improve very quickly. So I think pretty soon we won't be able to tell whether it's a real human or it's like Android, like type human, half AI writing it. But end of the day, you're human, so you're able to decipher a real human face. Right now, all you have to do is ask the other human to turn their head like 360, because so far the AI kind of human avatars can't do that yet. Just tell them to show you their ear. That's why the KYC the KYC like software asks you to like rotate your head and then turn your head like 45 degrees.
Makes sense,
because AI is not smart enough to do that yet.
So next time you have a date with a Japanese, I don't know, lady or man, you better ask that question. But on the other hand, it's legal there to marry them now, so whatever works here for you.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
I read something like that. It might be an urban myth. Don't take it.
I heard they're coming out with like real life, AI robot, physical robot avatars pretty soon. But that's a different podcast.
And I think we all can imagine what will follow. What the use cases for these robots will be all across the board.
Right. Well, I can imagine.
But it's a bit early for that for a bunch of our audience, so let's not go there.
But that's a serious issue, man. Like, especially we have a aging population and young people aren't having babies, so who's gonna take care of? That's why I
mentioned Japan as well.
Yeah, the current generation of young people, when they get old and they don't have kids, and they're probably gonna have like AI assistants.
Yeah, I mean, it will
Robot
probably for a
assistants.
long time. On the economics front, probably AI and robots will start taking a lot of the productivity or increasing the productivity to a level where a decreasing population is just fine. But as a species, as humanity, it's kind of
Hmm.
scary to look at it, how
Yeah, yeah,
quickly
it is.
some of the population is actually declining. And I mean, for decades we were afraid of overpopulation. I think that ship
Hmm.
has sailed quite soon. Anyway, should we do one last
Yeah, man.
question from Anchor again?
Sure.
As community manager, what was your best user retention strategy?
Mm. Keep telling them that if you stick with us, you're gonna keep making money.
That always works. Yeah, that makes sense. That
Yeah,
checks out.
until they get wrecked.
But then we have a community.
Until they get wrecked. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's sad but true. But I feel like in Web3, um, if you're like most of the projects in Web3, unfortunately, the user is trained as such that they're going to keep asking you when you're in the building stage, when token, when token, when token. And once your token comes out, then they dump it. Then you just kind of flip your brand name and build another community that does the same thing, and just bring those guys over.
Yeah, it's sad, but probably true in many cases. I mean, I have to say though, what we see in our community is that I think a lot of people got a bit sick and tired of it and realized that pattern. So there is a lot more questions regarding actual use cases and like when does the testnet come out? When can we try it out? When can we play with it? It might be partially because we steer our narrative and communication that way, because we obviously want to be a long-term company, industry protocol that people use in the long term. Like I'd much rather have a slower start and end up being the next Ethereum than just pumping and dumping. That's maybe stupid of me, but that's how I truly believe. And I always build companies that way. Not always successful, but it was always my target. So I feel like it's changing a bit, also with the extremes in this bull market. I feel where everything was meme, where heads of state would put out 10 meme coins to make a few billion. I think, and maybe again, it might be my naivety, it might be just me hoping against hope, but I believe there's a bit of a shift in how people see these things. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, definitely. And I've been in many communities like that, and it did work, no doubt.
Right.
And I see it working right now still. It's not like it's gone away. I just hope for it to slowly shift. So yeah,
any other
thanks
questions?
to you, our community. Please prove me right. Would be awesome. Any more questions? Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up. Luke, Suntai, do we have anything more? Or okay, there's one more from Prof again.
Okay.
Please, can you share your experience, challenges of building community from ground up, and how were you able to sail through it?
So I guess from ground up, I can actually go back to my Web 2 days. I'm Taiwanese American, and I moved to Beijing in 2005. So when I first moved to Beijing, obviously I didn't know anyone there. I had no friends there. I only had we were in a small startup of less than 10 people. So there were 2 other American guys on my team that were similar in age. So we hung out all the time. And how I kind of built up, I guess, my personal community of friends back then was that, let's say we just started organizing events, basically. So at the time it was house parties, right? So our three guys, me and my two colleagues, we would invite other people that we met, just like, we would go out at the weekends and stuff. And then those people would invite their friends. And that's how we kind of quickly, within a few months, built up like a nice little expat community at the time. So I kind of used that experience. So when I started my own catering company with my brother, that's the sort of same template that I use to build this like offline community that gets together once in a while, have a good meal, meet each other. Maybe if you're a business person, you can, find like potential partners in your business, or find like a boyfriend, girlfriend. There's actually, real couples that formed. And yeah, I think for someone to come to a social event physically, my experience is that if they meet just one person at that party that they had a connection with, they would give you credit for it, give you, the organizer, credit for it. So I found that can compound fairly quickly. So I kind of used that idea, or those learnings, to when I was building up OffChain in Beijing. Because when I was building up OffChain, I didn't know anyone in working in Web3 in Beijing. Not too many people at the time either, right? Like I said, my second event, it was two other guys. It was like just three of us. But from that very humble start, our biggest event that we did in Beijing, we had almost 100 people. And yeah, so that's kind of how that's sort of like from my own experience building communities offline. So I think if you're a Web3 community manager, you have to think about how you can bring value to your community as well, like what they're looking for. Because people are usually looking for just one of like a few things, right? They're looking for a job. They're looking for, if they're doing their own project, they're looking for someone to work with, right? They're looking for a dev, or like somebody who's good at ops, or somebody who's good at BD, right? There's only so many departments that kind of form a team that can work together. So if you can be somebody that provides value in that sense, then people will appreciate you for that, and they would introduce more friends to you, like, because you brought value to them, and they're going to reciprocate and bring value to you. So that's kind of like how I operate.
Thanks a lot. I hope that helps you, Anchor. Oh no, that was one Prof. There's one last question. There's one last question. If you still have the time and stamina to take it, and then
let's go.
Look it up. Cool. This one is a bit longer, quite interesting actually. Private Discord and private testnet is hyping right now. So many projects are doing this, making huge organic engagement, like Monad. What's your opinion on it? I mean, Wrecked Survivor basically is similar in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you can elaborate.
No, I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good because I remember back in the day, Facebook, when they got started, it was like private invitations only. So it gave kind of like an air of mystery to people. And kind of created some FOMO. It's like, hey, I want to get in. Like, what are they doing in there, right? It creates this mystery and curiosity from people that want to get in. But I think, like I said, just from my previous response, you have to vet everyone, especially in the beginning stages, right? You have to vet everyone that you allow into your community to make sure that you kind of have like common values, common qualities, common personalities. It's the same when you're building a team, right? Whether you're like an entrepreneur or starting a project, you want to find people that share your values, but they have a much different skill set compared to you. Because when you're a small startup, like I said, you want someone who's good at BD, like someone's like more kind of extroverted and good with people. You need a tech guy, right? You need an ops guy who's like very regimented, documents everything. But yeah.
Cool. And I think if everybody's happy, we are way over an hour now. I think then one of our longer ones.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot for the patience, and thanks
No
for
worries.
answering all the questions. And it was a wonderful conversation. I could have done another hour, no problem. Hope you come back at some point. And I hear you have a podcast. Let me know if you need somebody.
Sure.
The next one will be on the 24th, Suntai, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we just moved it. Also with a wonderful guest in the gaming space, Web3 gaming space, combination with meme coins. It's a quite interesting play he created. Wonderful guy. And then the next one, early April. Love to see you again there. Thanks for being here. I see we get more and more audience every time. It's wonderful. As always, this will be on YouTube, if that's okay for you,
Yeah.
within the next few days. And obviously, we will share the link. And hope to see you next time again. Thanks a lot. And thanks, Casey, for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Had a good time.